data. Doctor's assistant or a threat to patient's right or privacy of confidentiality. This discussion is going to be moderated by Kristaps Zanes, and I'll leave the stage to you.
Thank you. It's nice to have my own stage now, so thank you for that. As mentioned before, today we have an interesting discussion. Not a lot of time, so let's get down to business, as they say. But before we go down to the business, today is a special day, and I want to give a birthday wishes to one of our speakers, Maija Radziņa. So happy birthday!
Thank you.
And like I said, today we are going to have four of us here, me as a moderator, but more interesting, we have a great line of our discussion members. So for each of our discussion members, I will give a short introduction time. So Karina, could I start with you?
Yes, of course, if you want so. Karina Palkova, I'm advocate, and as well as I'm the leading researcher at Riga Stradiņš University and the head of doctoral study program Law at Riga Stradiņš University. And basically my research field, my career related to medical law and health law as well.
Okay, so with you, everything with law. We understood. Okay, good. Now let's go further to our next speaker, our discussion member, Maija. What about you? You have a birthday today, but something else.
Yeah, the most important reason I'm here, I guess, is because I'm a doctor. I work in visual diagnostics, we call it radiology, and I work with the imaging of the human body in their normal and also pathological states. And the people who work with visual diagnostics are producing a lot of data. So probably we will talk today about the possibilities, what we can get from that.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about that. And now I'm seeing on the screen Signe too. So Signe, a short word for you to introduce yourself.
Hello everybody. My name is Signe Baliņa. I'm professor at University of Latvia, and I'm something like all digital. I'm also advisor to our rector on affairs of digital society, and I'm also president of Latvian Information and Communication Technology Association. And at university, I'm professor in econometrics. It means how to analyze economic data in some smart way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said before, a great line of our discussion members for today. So let's jump in about big data and medicine. So we already had Signe, you talking about that big data and data is already used in medicine. Can you be more specific? How do you see this already being used in medicine?
When I talk about the profession that I work in, and we actually produce images, and not only the static images, and sometimes these are videos, and this takes a lot of terabytes. And at the one moment it was a challenge until the servers became to the optimal capacity. And then I think that also our medical imaging data became, in a certain way, currency. Why? Because everybody wants to trade it in a certain way, and it's very hard to define the value of them, because only imaging data itself contains a lot of information, but they have a different value if it is in a context of clinical situation, meaning there is a different value of the same data. And there is a big difference how you organize them. So if you just put them in a chaotic way, you cannot gather anything reasonable out of that. But if you start to categorize them and add the specific added value from clinical history, for example, disease history, disease symptoms, maybe laboratory tests, something else, then these data actually become a mandatory component of the e-healthcare today.
Mm-hmm. And Signe, could you add something to this already said by Maija in our field already in the medicine, the big data, how it's used?
When we think about the data and big data, then of course data and big data are all around us and in our everyday life, in our businesses, and also in the healthcare, of course. And there is something like the many ways how we use and how we can use data in healthcare. The first one is this, that we use this personalized data. And we would like to collect more and more precise, more detailed, with wider coverage medical data in order to build better personalized patient profile. Another one way is, as also Maya talked before, it's the question about the big data. And we use depersonalized data for the data analysis. And we use this data in order to build better models for predicting, different diagnoses, for predicting better treatment for one or another one patient. And this is another one challenge of data. And also what we did, what was in discussion just before, another one way of data and analysis of data and also analysis of big data is the analysis of our business data. And then we can look also to whole healthcare system, to worldwide or nationwide, or at the hospital level, or maybe at GP practitioner level. We also use data in order to improve our healthcare system, to improve the efficiency of our business in hospital or in the practice. And it's something like the data is absolutely everywhere. And what we need to do, we need to understand our data. And the next one is we need to be too smart to use the data in the right way. This is, I would like to say that data are everywhere, and it's just a question how we use it.
Yeah, and maybe to just go further with using the data smart, and we have a law specialist here, and I think that the medicine big data, using them smart, possesses those threats that's already mentioned in the name of this discussion. How can you, as a law specialist and expert from that field, can you see there any of those threats?
Of course, actually, if we speak about the big data, I would like to speak about the big data from the right to science perspective, first of all, because all of us understand how big influence do have this big data to our health, to human health, to personal health as well. And therefore, in my opinion, it's so important to find this balance between ethical issue, between legal issue, and between big data, let's say, this great input in our human health. And therefore, in my opinion, first of all, we must think about ecosystem of big data, not just in Latvia, but actually around Europe, around the world. And one challenge that you talked about actually is this legal basic for exchange information related to this big data. And what we do see right now in Latvia, we have such a lot of medical institutions, we have such a lot of private institutions, research institutions that collect this big data. And in my opinion, that we as Riga Stradiņš University or we as a patient were interested to unify this data, to make this unified ecosystem. And it will be better for us as for patients, better for us as for doctors, for instance, and of course for science at all. And of course, another part, these legal issues, liability issues, these ethical issues, and I must say that I'm glad that we go this right way, in my opinion, because of this national digitalization strategy, what we did accept, and I think, yeah, this is huge step in big data issue, in artificial intelligence and big data issue in context of healthcare.
Yeah, great. But when we think of those big data and it could help in the patient's life and in the medicine and in the business field, as already mentioned, Maya, why do you think it's sometimes so slow to have them used in the professional field, or maybe as I'm not associated with the medicine, but I don't feel that a big data is a lot used already in the medicine when I'm going to my doctor. Why there is this, maybe sometimes the slowness of this?
I think that the trick is a bit in technology because we fragmented our way into the digitalization. Everybody started either to develop their own solutions, or maybe these data were not classified well enough. That time technology was not flexible enough until nowadays, so some of the systems are actually not able to communicate on a software level and also on a technology level. So it means you cannot transfer a very old furniture into the fancy new modern something, despite that it's still made of wood. So what I suggest is that we must go forward, and I have a very good example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I met the colleagues from Turkey, and they said, you know, we actually have a nationwide archiving system of images for 80 million people, 80, and it's a pity that we are still debating what was back then, instead of just maybe leave the old solutions at the side to take the advantage of all the new possibilities and just to make a normal, new, interactive platform. And we still struggle by fixing the old malfunctioning. And this is why it takes time. Time is taken by the mindset shift to leave things and not to regret. This was a step that was done then, but now we have to take the next step, and we cannot still stand on the same level. And another part of this is that we cannot involve the society if the society feels it as a threat. So there should be an open understanding of each individual that actually data confidentiality is not the benefit anymore. Of course, you can select what do you want or maybe do not want to be displayed. But I think in medicine, like you don't lie to the priest, you don't lie to the doctor, and you don't lie to your lawyer, advocate. So there are things that you should not hide, and I think that part of confidentiality mindset should shift. And when it will shift also, there will be a demand from a society. They will say, why I don't see all my history of my lab tests in my laptop in 3 seconds? Mm-hmm. And then the society will demand it. Not only scientists, not only specialists, and not only institutions.
Mm-hmm. And Signe, how do you look on that? Already Maya said about those new potential ways that we need to go and maybe put back those old variants. How are you looking on those new variants? Are there any good looking variants we need to look at and say, this is the way?
What I would like to say, when you say that you don't see the benefits from the data when you are visiting your doctors, that maybe it is something like hidden, because, for example, in many medical equipment, there are built in many models, and they are built on data. Yeah, but last summer we have discussion in Latvian Information and Communication Technology Association together with Embassy of France together with Ministry of Economics and Microsoft. We discussed about the healthcare and about the digital sustainability. And what we get out, that the one problem is, like also we mentioned in this discussion, that one problem is that we need this EU-wide and also, of course, national-wide framework, interconnected, properly governed framework for in legislation, in regulation, and also in technology for data governance, and also for smart usage of data and smart usage of artificial intelligence. Because other way, it is something like many times there is. For researchers, there is one important thing is this patient patient consent, what the patient allowed to do with the data in one or another one research. And I think this is a big question. Of course, yes, there is GDPR and all such things, and this is very important. But from another side, from research perspective and from healthcare perspective, it is very, very important that we can collect data at national level, at EU level, and we can analyze this data. Because otherwise, there will be no new results and no new models, predictions for us and for our healthcare.
Yeah, and Karina, I
Yes.
think you want to add, and I wanted to go to you about those law background already ready for the future, for the next products, but maybe you wanted to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, let's see, so we do have GDPR, and as we know, big data in healthcare, they're extremely protected. This is sensitive data. Therefore, it's, again, extremely difficult to work with this data on research level, on medical level, medicine level, right? And therefore, we have, at the same time, this, the law on patients' rights. And again, the law states that patients must know everything about his data. He must give this informed consent for this data. But where we see the problematics, let's say, let's speak about genome sequencing, right? This procedure lets show us the whole picture about our body, about our health. And if some patients need to give this informed consent, it's very difficult to understand what kind of information must be in this content, because I cannot say you what kind of results will be when we will receive the information about our genome, so genome information. So a lot of issues, and I completely agree with the extremely high necessity of a legal framework for big data in healthcare. Because right now, yes, we do have GDPR, we do have several laws and rules on patients' rights, on medical practitioners' rights and duties, but we actually do not have any regulations on big data in healthcare. We do not have regulation on artificial intelligence and robotics. It's actually not even in Latvia. It's around Europe, around the world. We just start work on this. As we know, this white book on artificial intelligence and robotics provided us by European Parliament. So another politic document, but still we need some time to prepare new legal framework. And actually ethical framework as well, especially for healthcare data.
Mm-hmm. And then just to add on this, is there a trust issue at the moment for big data in medicine? That we need those laws and everything so we have bigger trust in the process?
Let's say, in my opinion, it's not about trust, it's more about understanding of how system works and legal aspect, what kind of laws, let's say, shows how to act in particular situations. But probably trust of patients, trust of medical practitioners issue, probably it might be so, especially if we speak about the decision-making process, where, for instance, in radiology, the doctor works with big data, and actually AI system, artificial intelligence system, gives some decision, and the doctor must say, is he agree with the decision made by AI system or disagree? And again, responsibility issue. According to national law, of course, medical practitioners has the right to, let's say, make decision, but still, how it deals with the informed consent issue, with the patient's right to know what kind of methodic used in radiology, for example.
May I briefly add, because I think the legal framework is needed for errors, to be honest. If everything goes smooth and all the components are interacting well and the patients are happy, scientists are happy, and data flow is uninterrupted, everybody's happy. So I think it's not about the trust, it's about the responsibility. Now also we might ask, who does the data belong to? If I make a chest X-ray, is it belonging to the patient? So he is the owner of the data, but actually he has given a consent to have it stored in the institution database. So until it's in a database, it actually belongs to the institution. And then starts the play of the business and maybe not legally fully clear business. So who can maybe sell those data, or maybe they are not having any price, they should be shared for free, which actually would be the benefit for the science in the future. So we don't need to buy data from anywhere. We just have an rights or permission to access those data. So it's somewhat partly legal to trade data, because we actually don't know who is the real owner of them. If the person who performed the imaging method and he was the artist who made those images, or these images belong to the patient. So this is extremely slippery road, and this is where the lawyers should come in. And at this moment, all over the globe and in Europe, it says patient medical data are sensitive data and they should be protected. But I think it's just because of that fear of possible law, maybe involvement in this in court.
And actually, let's go further. To whom belongs data produced by artificial intelligence system based on big data? So basically, who is the owner?
Yeah, maybe the company who developed the software of AI. You know, it's a very debatable moment.
Mm-hmm. And just to give a possibility of a brighter future, Signe, could you just give your end note for thinking of the future? What's the next big thing for big data in medicine we need to do?
Okay, I love data. I love technology and artificial intelligence. And what I think that there is big challenges for us in this area of usage of data and usage of big data and usage of artificial intelligence in the medicine. But what I think, what is our future, is that we will live longer and we will live better thanks to the big data and thanks to the predictive medicine and thanks to the use of all this. And another one important issue, I think, is that also because we use the data, because we will be we will predict many situations, and also our medical system hopefully will be more efficient and cheaper, hopefully.
Thank you. I love, you said you love data. I love discussion, and I think this was a really interesting one that we definitely need to continue sometime else. But firstly, before I go to you and give the stage back, which is sadly, I want to say a big thanks to all our speakers for today. And yeah, stage is your back.
Christoph, thank you so much. It was definitely a pleasure to hear this discussion.